For weeks, the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan felt like a case frozen in time. The sequence of events was a grueling loop of hope and heartbreak. Search teams combed the dense forest, drones scanned the canopy from above, and volunteers walked the same trails until their boots were worn thin. Yet, the result was always the same: silence. No shoes, no backpacks, no clothing, and no clear footprints. It was as if the children had simply vanished into the air. However, the latest update from the RCMP has shattered that silence. The tone has shifted from a desperate search to a calculated investigation. They didn't ask the public for tips or speak in the gentle language of hope. Instead, they revealed a final lead, a clue that may explain not only where the children went, but how the truth was hidden for months. It begins with something small and soft: a pink blanket. Initially, this item was dismissed as just a comfort object Lilly was known to carry. But forensic sources now claim this blanket is the most critical physical evidence in the case. The mystery lies in its location. One part was discovered in a family trash bin, while another fragment was recovered miles away near a remote ATV trail. A child's blanket does not tear itself in half and travel miles into the wilderness on its own. When DNA testing confirmed the fabric belonged to Lilly, the wandering child theory began to collapse. This wasn't a case of two kids getting lost in the woods. It was a sign of intentional movement. A blanket doesn't walk itself into the forest. Someone carries it. This single realization has reopened parts of the investigation that had long gone quiet, forcing investigators to look inward at the timeline of that fateful night. As the investigation pivoted away from the woods, it turned toward the digital world, a realm where memories do not fade and stories cannot be altered. For months, the working theory was that the children simply wandered off, but a lack of consistent footprints or signs of long-distance movement made that impossible to maintain. Enter the digital data: cell tower records, rental timestamps, and location pings. These tools provided clarity that the human eye could not. According to investigative reporting, this data began to fill gaps that conflicted with earlier public statements. When a story doesn't line up with the digital record, investigators take notice. It doesn't automatically prove guilt, but it demands a total re-examination of the facts. One of the most startling discoveries involved an ATV trail that had previously been ignored. This wasn't a place children would frequent, especially alone. Investigators reviewed rental records for ATVs in the area and found a chilling detail. A vehicle had been checked out the night before the children were reported missing. It was a late-night rental taken out quietly after dark. Cell tower data later placed that vehicle in the remote area for an extended period, long enough for someone to stop, long enough to leave something behind, and long enough to return unnoticed. This data challenges the simplicity of the lost child narrative. It suggests a level of coordination and timing that points to adult involvement. The silence of the forest was being replaced by the loud, indisputable pings of technology, narrowing the window of what actually happened to Lilly and Jack during those dark hours. Vehicles often serve as silent witnesses in criminal investigations. They do not speak, but they carry the physical history of every journey. As the focus shifted, attention turned to a rental vehicle connected to the Sullivan timeline. Forensic teams meticulously examined the interior, looking for anything that shouldn't be there. What they found raised serious concerns: a single sock, food packaging containing DNA, and fiber consistent with Lilly's pink blanket. While no single item proves a crime on its own, the collection of these items within a rental car suggests that the children were moved rather than walking. The car became a vessel of evidence, transporting traces of the children far beyond the radius they could have reached on foot. But the most haunting development involves audio. In the digital age, cloud backups and encrypted apps often hold the keys to a mystery. Investigators reportedly recovered voice recordings that had become a central focus of the case. These weren't just casual notes. They were multiple recordings of the same phrases, repeated over and over. Experts suggest that such repetition can indicate rehearsal or intense stress. Why would someone need to record the same statement multiple times? Why were these files deleted or encrypted? While there could be innocent explanations, the sheer pattern of rehearsal suggests a preparation for a narrative yet to be told. These Janey tapes, as they are sometimes called, remain under tight seal. The RCMP refuses to release them, knowing that premature disclosure could compromise the integrity of a potential criminal case. The investigation is no longer just about where the children are. It is about the stories that were built around their disappearance. One of the most significant changes in this case isn't a piece of physical evidence, but the language used by the RCMP. In the early days, officials spoke of hope and sightings. They were searching for lost children. Now, that vocabulary has been replaced by words like intent, concealment, and forensic review. This is not a symbolic shift. It is a fundamental move from a missing persons framework to a criminal investigation framework. This transition requires higher evidentiary thresholds and the involvement of specialized forensic teams. When law enforcement stops asking for public tips and starts talking about building a case, it means they believe they are no longer looking for an accident. They are looking for accountability. The term final lead has been used to describe the current path. In police terms, this doesn't mean the case is ending. It means they have found the strongest possible avenue of inquiry, supported by the intersection of physical evidence and digital records. The investigation is now exploring the possibility of conspiracy, the idea that more than one person may have been involved in the coordination or the management of information. Silence from the authorities often frustrates the public. But in this stage, silence is protective. It protects witnesses, future charges, and the legal integrity of the evidence. When investigators stop answering the public's questions, it is usually because they are preparing to ask those same questions in a court of law. The tone is heavier now because the answers being sought are darker than anyone initially imagined. The search for Lilly and Jack is changing once again, but the goal is no longer to find wandering children. It is now a search for concealment. This distinction is vital because it changes where and how investigators look. Instead of open trails, they are now prioritizing locations reachable by vehicle but hidden from casual view. Spots near water sources, drainage points, abandoned structures, and areas with disturbed soil. They are looking for places where something could be hidden intentionally. To do this, the RCMP has brought in advanced technology, sonar for the water and ground-penetrating radar for the land. Water is a difficult environment. It erases timelines and hides evidence. But specialized imaging tools are now scanning rivers, wells, and flooded lands that were once low priority. Surveillance footage has also played a crucial role in this new phase. By pulling footage from wider distances, gas stations, rural cabins, and remote roads, investigators have reportedly found images of a figure carrying a bag near the ATV trail. While the footage may be grainy, it supports the emerging theory that significant movement occurred while the rest of the world was asleep. This isn't about guesswork anymore, it's about patterns. Ground-penetrating radar is used only when there is a specific reason to believe the Earth has been disturbed. By focusing on these select areas near trails and fields, the team is methodically checking the final lead. Every bit of soil and every silhouette in a frame is being scrutinized to see if it fits the narrative suggested by the digital data. The search has moved from the surface of the forest to the depths of the earth and the shadows of the night. In Pictou County and beyond, the atmosphere has fundamentally changed. The community, once united in a hopeful search, is now gripped by a mixture of grief and anger. The question has shifted from what if they wandered to how did this go on for so long? Families who once prayed for a miracle are now praying for the truth. Justice in this context does not mean headlines or public satisfaction. It means the truth is known, responsibility is established, and the lies are finally untangled. Even as the legal process moves forward with warrants and evidence reviews, one painful reality remains. Lilly and Jack have not yet been found. That fact sits heavier than any theory or digital ping. The role of the public has changed too. Investigators are no longer asking for sightings of the children. They are asking for memories of vehicles, late-night ATV movements, or unusual conversations that didn't make sense at the time. Sometimes the smallest, most insignificant memory becomes the final piece of the puzzle. Time is the enemy of any investigation. Evidence degrades and memories fade, but the RCMP is racing to ensure that the story is not forgotten. Lilly and Jack were not just headlines. They were children who played, laughed, and trusted. Their disappearance has become a story about the failure of protection and the necessity of accountability. As the investigation follows this final lead to its conclusion, the goal remains the same: to find the answers that Lilly and Jack deserve. The truth, once uncovered, cannot be buried again. The case is no longer lost. It is moving forward one fact at a time toward a resolution that will stand forever